empowering AI data centers, among other objectives. Joining us now to discuss is David Blackman, energy policy analyst and advisor, and Forbes senior contributor. Good afternoon, David. Thank you for joining us today. Can we start off with about how significant or how transformative is this level of investment for Pennsylvania? That's in terms of boosting artificial intelligence, powering AI data centers as well. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's pretty enormous. It's $92 billion in commitments from some of the country's biggest companies, well-known names like Google, Amazon, GE, Westinghouse, in a diversified plan to make the Pittsburgh area in southwestern Pennsylvania one of the major data center hubs for the United States. It's a really quite an advancement for the AI industry and U.S. leadership in this space.
Do you think local communities or people, regular people, are positioned to benefit from these projects?
Oh, for sure, yes. This will create thousands of jobs. I mean, there are 20 different companies now have committed to it, with projects that several of which are going to create several thousand jobs each. So the workforce development in the area, and it's going to be both blue-collar workers and white-collar workers. It's going to require high school diplomas and advanced college degrees. I mean, this is going to expand the full spectrum of employment here in the United States. And, for the AI industry, for the U.S. to continue its leadership role there with this competition from China and in the EU and the UK, you're going to have major centralized regional developments like this to maintain that status. So it's a really exciting opportunity for the Pittsburgh area. And I think all the civic leaders there and the local government and the city there and small towns around the region, their support is vital to that effort.
And you mentioned China. We'll get to that point later in this conversation. But one specific point that was announced yesterday, Westinghouse Electric announced 10 nuclear reactors by 2030, right? What do you make of this timeline? Is it realistic?
Well, I think it is. These are the advanced nuclear modular reactor types that are a lot more compact. The models, the design models are in place. They're easily repeatable. The question is going to be whether the federal government can reform its permitting policies to get them permitted during that time. Now, I think what the commitment is to have those 10 reactors ready for deployment and installation, and that will take several years after 2030 to fully accomplish. But that is an aggressive timeline for Westinghouse, but I think it's an entirely meetable one too.
Okay, and how would these reactors help meet the power needs of AI data centers?
Well, it's going to require a lot of power, and the nuclear is going to be very, very vital to that. You're going to need several gigawatts of nuclear capacity just to power this planned development. In the near term, though, you're going to need a lot more natural gas generation to help supply that need. And for example, the Homer City redevelopment, this big retired coal power plant that was retired several years ago, is going to be rapidly redeveloped into the biggest natural gas power plant on the face of the earth, 4 gigawatts of power from that one plant. And you're going to need smaller gas generation sites behind the meter for some of these bigger data center developments. And so it's going to take, this diverse suite of energy power generation sources to supply all these needs. There's also hydropower involved, 670 megawatts of hydro planned to be involved in this.
So President Trump yesterday, I don't know if you watched that event, he said that the U.S. is ahead of China in artificial intelligence, and he characterized the competition going forward as sort of a friendly competition between the U.S. and China. I want your thoughts on how does the U.S. stay ahead of China? Is energy dominance key to that?
It is. It's, you have to have this aggressive supported suite of policies at the federal level, to kind of pave the path for these kinds of developments and ensure the federal government doesn't get in the way. You don't need subsidies. All of this $92 billion is private investment. You don't need federal subsidies to drive this kind of a development, but you do need the right policies at the federal, state, and local levels and support from all those levels of government to ensure that there aren't a lot of unnecessary roadblocks pop up to delay the progress timeline. And so that's key to it. I think the U.S. can maintain that leadership position, but it's going to be a very difficult and fierce competition with China, I think.
Okay, on that note, you're saying it's very difficult and you think probably the U.S. Can maintain that leadership, yet NVIDIA's export restrictions on AI chips to China were reportedly eased this week. Is there a conflict there?
You know, I'm not versed enough on the intricacies of international trade to really weigh in on that. I know that, there is competing interests here. You know, we want to be able to export our products from the United States to all over the world, China included. And as long as that decision isn't impinging on national security concerns, then it's probably fine. But, the people at the State Department and other parts of the Trump administration and the White House are a lot more in tune with those needs than I am.
All right, so we're talking about energy. Can we explore that a little bit? Is it possible for current and future data centers to run on renewable energy?
It's very difficult. Data centers have to be up and running 99.999% of the time. They call it their 5 nines power requirement. And so wind and solar are only able to produce energy for part of the day when the sun shines and when the wind's blowing. And even with stationary backup batteries, the current technology is not adequate to ensure that kind of almost continuous uptime. You really need 24/7 power generation from nuclear, natural gas, even coal. Hydropower is able to sustain it to some extent as well. And so it's got to be a combination of all those things. The new technologies for gas and even coal, generate power with so much fewer emissions than they did even 10 years ago. It's really not that big an environmental problem as it used to be. And so these companies have a need for that constant generation source of power. And, to be 100% sure they're going to have that, they're going to require gas in the short term. Most of it's going to be natural gas in the near term, the next 5 to 10 years. And then as time goes on, there will be more nuclear come into play there.
All right, from your perspective, just overall, generally speaking, how is AI transforming the energy sector?
It's huge. There are all sorts of applications in the energy space. These companies' needs are no different in terms of the kinds of jobs they have than any other industry. So it's the whole spectrum of disciplines: accountants, lawyers, engineers, scientists, and then blue collar workers as well. And so every one of those jobs can be made more efficient and safer by proper deployment of AI technology. You can streamline a lot of jobs. Unfortunately, I think you're going to see AI completely replace many jobs too. But for the most part, I think what we're going to see is deployment of AI technology in a way that enables existing employees to become much more productive, and their environment will be safer, their working conditions will be less hazardous, and they'll be able to anticipate problems before they pop up in terms of equipment breakdowns and things like that. AI technology really brings an awful lot to the space, and the energy industry is incredibly reliant on its own proprietary technologies, drilling rigs, and everything you see in an oil and gas or nuclear operation. AI can help make those technologies more efficient and effective and productive in what they do. So it's a real revolution. It's going to be a big part of all of our lives, and it's better for the United States to be a leader in this than a follower.
Okay, we're almost out of time here. I'll just ask you one more thing. So my concern is you're talking about AI can create all these kind of jobs and perhaps replace some jobs, right? What if AI becomes so advanced it just keeps replacing jobs? Is that a risk?
Well, I think it is a risk, and I'm not sure how the government is going to ultimately deal with all that, because everything I read is that there is a very real risk that could happen if it's not properly managed, and so it creates a lot of uncertainty into the future as well.
Okay, David, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, 3 current and former police chiefs are charged with taking